Today is the day. The tale of the dragon. I'd been thinking about this stretch of road since the moment I planned the trip. 11 miles, 318 curves. A name every motorcyclist knows, and one that carries its own kind of weight. I planned to do this early in the morning on a Tuesday, long before the weekend rush. This was very intentional. No crowds, no riders pushing my speed. Minimize the danger, maximize the enjoyment. I didn't come here to chase a time. I came to experience the road the way it was meant to be ridden. Calm, controlled, a ride to be savored. And just so you know, we're only halfway through this series, so hit the subscribe button and the notification icon so you can follow along as I ride home. As I made my way down Tennessee 72 and closer to the Dragon, I stopped at Dragon City for coffee and to settle my brain a bit. I wound up picking up some of their I Rode the Tail merchandise. A bit ironic to be picking that up before I actually rode the Dragon, but oh well. I got a picture with the Dragon sculpture in front, took a few deep breaths, downed the rest of my coffee, and then it was time to ride again. Coming from the northern Cheoah side, the actual start of the Dragon isn't overly obvious. Sure, you get some major warning signs prior, but it's not like there's a sign that says, "Now it begins." Just a rhythm that tightens, the turns stacking closer together until you realize you're in it. The Dragon winds through dense forest, the pavement cutting like a ribbon through a tunnel of trees. Sunlight flickered through the canopy, flashing across the tank in rhythm with the turns. Each curve carried its own personality. Tight hairpins that made you hold your breath, long sweepers that let you roll the throttle just enough to feel the bike stretch. Elevation changed constantly, climbing and falling in short bursts that kept every moment alive. It's a road that doesn't let your mind drift. Every gear change, every lean, every breaking point, it demands focus. There's no room for anything else. No thoughts of work, no background noise, no music. Just the feedback through your hands and the hum of the tires against the pavement. In the quiet between corners, all you hear is the engine ripping for a few seconds until you hit the next curve. At first, I didn't settle in. And I'll tell you, I made mistakes. A lot of them. And every one of them came with a quick reminder to reset and refocus. Some curves came faster than my comfort, and every corner tested my timing. The Dragon feels tighter than most mountain roads, and there aren't a lot of guardrails. The margin for error is smaller. But that's part of what makes it what it is. It's not a place to test limits, it's a place to respect them. You learn to look through the turn, trust your speed, and stay smooth. The more relaxed you get, the better the road starts to flow back at you. And there are these small moments that start to creep in. The way mist lingers in shaded corners even after the sun hits the upper ridges, or how the smell changes from spot to spot as the miles go on. Every sense is awakened, locked into the ride. This is what motorcycling is supposed to feel like, before speed and ego get in the way. There are plenty of pull-offs along the route, so I actually used a couple of them to let faster riders pass. I just didn't want to feel rushed. But somewhere along the way, things did start to click. The movements became smoother, the reactions more instinctive. Not perfect, not even close. But it did start to connect. I got into kind of a flow that only happens when you stop fighting the road and start listening to it. Everyone rides this stretch differently. Some treat it like a racetrack, others like a meditation. I just wanted to make it through, to experience the road on my terms. By the time I reached Deal's Gap, the sun had climbed a little higher, the air had warmed slightly. And depending on which direction you're coming from, this is either the start or the finish of the Dragon. And just as you cross North Carolina, the road surface changes. An odd differentiator. For me, it was like crossing the finish line. The release of tension, the realization that I'd made it through one of the most dangerous roads in the United States without incident. And in this moment, it wasn't adrenaline I felt, it was relief. The kind that sort of leaves you hanging there. The kind that says, what next? So I stopped for a picture with another dragon statue, this time a much cooler one. Then I got back on the bike and pointed it in the direction of the mountains, again. Just a few miles past Deal's Gap, there's a swinging bridge that I wanted to check out. You'll miss it if you aren't looking, like I did. Tucked behind a curve down a short gravel pull-off, literally on the side of the road. I parked my bike and I followed the narrow path until the bridge came into view. It looked harmless from a distance, just planks and cables stretched across the river. But the moment I stepped on, it bounced with every step.
Dicey.
Not a gentle sway, an actual up and down bounce that made you question whether it would hold. Each board flexed underfoot, the cables groaning and shifting just enough to make you slow down and think twice. It felt sketchy, no doubt, but the view made it worth it. Halfway across, I stopped and looked out over the water. The river cut through the trees in both directions, framed by rock and light. It wasn't a long stop, but it ended up being a nice side quest. Equal parts nerve and calm, uncertainty and beauty.
That is incredibly dicey. Oh my god. 4 persons. Yeah, I didn't trust one person.
With my feet on solid ground again, the road carried me higher into the mountains, toward the Cherohala Skyway. Where the Dragon twists tight and demands precision, the Skyway opens up and lets you breathe, but it's still challenging. The climb starts gradual, then suddenly you're above the tree line. The temperature drops fast and the air starts to feel thin and clean. Clouds hanging low across the peaks. It was overcast that morning, the sun fighting to break through, but the gray just added to the mood of the ride. The Skyway rolls for more than 40 miles through the Appalachians, linking North Carolina to Tennessee. Smooth pavement, wide turns, undulating up and downs, and a rhythm that feels unhurried. Every few miles, the view changes. Sometimes tight forest, sometimes wide ridge lines that look like waves frozen in time. I didn't realize it until I returned from the trip, but I actually took a wrong turn at this point. But that wrong turn led me on Joyce Kilmer Road, through a beautifully forested area along Lake Santitla. The road ran parallel to a beautiful feeder river, and I decided to stop for a while at one of the campgrounds along it. These camping spots were all part of Horse Cove Campground, and each spot would make you forget that there's anywhere else to be. I popped into an unoccupied camp for a quick reprieve and decided to set up the drone for a few shots over the water, trying to capture the beauty of the river as it twisted through the mountains. This location was something special, and I wanted to document it. But like every time I fly that drone, I somehow found a way to almost lose it. I had to climb out across the rocks in the middle of the river, balancing with the controller in hand so I could locate myself on screen to bring the drone back into view. This stop was a short detour, but it made me laugh. A reminder that even calm places, nothing ever goes exactly as planned, especially if drones are involved. I stopped pressing my luck and I sat by the river for a while, just listening. The stillness after the chaos of the dragon felt different, like the road itself was giving me space to rest. I knew my time here was fleeting, so I tried to take this in as long as I could without setting my pace back. As I unknowingly made my way back toward the planned route, the miles passed quietly. The road curved gently through shaded valleys, following the line of the river. It was one of those stretches where the world narrows to a hum of the engine and the motion of the trees sliding by. And soon after rejoining North Carolina 143, I pulled off the side of the road at Sunset Overlook. The clouds hung low, the light spilled soft across the ridges. I decided to chance another drone flight, this time higher, tracing the curves of the tree lines and disappearing into the haze. Before leaving, a woman and her husband offered to take my picture. One of those small, kind gestures that stick with you. The result being my favorite picture from the trip. It's something that I've noticed a lot on this trip. Riders, travelers, strangers. Everyone out here is up for a chat. Many see the Indiana license plate and ask why I'm so far from home, an icebreaker of sorts. There's something about these kinds of destinations that bring that out in people. They just want to connect over the shared experience. And frankly, I'm all for it. By the time I dropped down toward Tellico Plains, the temperature started to climb again, and the clouds gave way to a bit of sun. It felt like the perfect way to end the day's climb. Calm, cool, and exactly the kind of ride that I had hoped for. The descent felt like returning to Earth. After hours in the mountains, the curves began to stretch out, still surrounded by trees, but calmer now. But partway down, a new thought started creeping in. Fuel. The climbs and long downhill stretches had thrown off my gas gauge. It was reading low, lower than it should have been, and I couldn't tell how accurate it really was. In theory, I had enough to make it, but theory doesn't mean much when you're still miles from the next town. As the road wound deeper through the hills, my mind started running through scenarios. How does a tow truck get up here? Could I flag someone down? Hope they'd take me to a gas station and bring me back? The more I thought about it, the more ridiculous it sounded. And I started to get frustrated with myself. How could you let this happen? But that's what happens when the miles stretch on and the gauge doesn't move. Your brain starts writing its own side of the story just to fill the silence. The road was beautiful, but I'll admit, the worry lingered. Each downhill coast felt like borrowed time. But eventually, my cell phone got service again, and my GPS updated to show me the nearest gas station, and I could finally relax. The gauge steadied, the road leveled, and just like that, I knew I was fine. I stopped for lunch at Ironworks Grill, a biker favorite right along the river, and it was nice to pull into a parking lot full of motorcycles. Riders trading stories from the Skyway and the Dragon. Inside and out, it was all bikers. That easy sense of community you only find on roads like this. I grabbed a seat outside by the water again and ordered the waitress's personal recommendation. A Philly cheesesteak with a list of substitutions that she swore by. And she wasn't wrong. After a ride like that, it was an absolutely perfect choice. After lunch, I started heading north toward my hotel in Harriman, Tennessee for the night. Along the way, I stopped by a coffee shop for a quick break, but the coffee was just garbage, and frankly, I just wanted to get to the hotel. But the closer that I got to Harriman, the darker the skies became. The horizon ahead looked bruised, heavy with rain. The kinds of clouds that don't just pass over, but chase you. Mile after mile, the air grew thicker, the wind a little sharper, and that smell, the smell that tells you that rain isn't far, that started to settle in and wouldn't go away. I checked the radar, and the storm was moving fast, set to pass right over my hotel. The race was on. I figured if I pushed a little bit, I could beat it. But out here, forecasts stop meaning much. It's just you, the road, and what's rolling in over the hills. As I got closer to the hotel, I could see sheets of rain falling in the distance, just over the mountains, right in front of where I was headed. The anxiety of getting soaked again on this trip continued to build. But all I could do is just focus on the sound of the motor, the hiss of the wind, and ponder the calculation of distance versus time. But all of that anxiety was immediately released when I pulled under the hotel's front entrance overhang. And literally 5 seconds after I shut that engine off, Mother Earth unleashed her fury. And I was just thankful to have made it. This day was incredible. The Dragon, the Skyway, the river, the rise, the fall. The ride had thrown everything at me, and somehow it all landed just right. This is the kind of day that reminds you why you do this. It's not for perfection, but for the mix of it all. The risk, the rhythm, the calm, and the chaos. As always, ride safe, stay curious, and enjoy the journey.